despite the renewed persecution of the press for its stance on unbiased reportage of events, even when such report catches heavily on government hegemony. This press conference is no doubt coming at a period of growing government hostility against free speech and independent journalism. This is in addition to the cultivation of a red line around national discussion. We do not take for granted this uncommon display of naked bravery by members of the press, especially when the Buhari administration now monitors anti-government posts with clear intention to intimidate us all into grave silence. With this continuous show of bravery by the members of the press, we can begin to have renewed confidence in a better and more democratic Nigeria, free of every and any form of exploitation and characterized only by economic justice. Before delving too deep into wordy rhetoric, we would like to pass our apt condemnation on the uncouth mayhem unleashed on innocent citizens, press, and patriotic individuals whose only crime was to observe their constitutional rights to attend court sessions. Recall that on Thursday, 13th of September 2017, harmless students across various institutions of higher learning, youth activists, members of civil society organizations, and the press who had come to solidarize with the media outfit in a libel suit against it were mortally and viciously wounded by the hundreds of thugs mobilized by the embattled Senate President Bukola Saraki. The individuals who have come in solidarity with the fourth arm and open-minded observation of the session were confronted with injurious attacks right under the supervision of the Nigeria Police Force. A particular person named Boba mobilized the Saraki thugs and supervised the beating, pointing fingers to the next person to be beaten. The thugs, basking in the frenzy of their villainous duties, took the opportunity to steal from the sympathizers. Several phones and bags were snatched from both sympathizers and passers-by.
Student activists and comrades, civil society persons, and the press were mobilized down to courts. And on getting to the courts, without even starting anything, without addressing anybody, the thugs who were mobilized by the Senate President through one of his cronies, Boba, started unleashing violence on everybody. In fact, we did not even write anything. At the point, but the funny thing about this is that they all accepted that he is a thief. Because those women were saying it. That yes, he is a thief, we know, but he is our thief. That was the narration. Because we were trying to engage them at the end of everything, when at least to an extent there was calm. But nothing like that was allowed to thrive. In fact, it was done under the supervision of the Nigerian police force. They supervised everything that happened. And after beating, brutalizing, and harassing students and journalists, these same people were now pointing fingers at people who will be arrested by the police officers. So it was as if the only difference between the thugs and the police officers was just the uniform. The police officers were putting on uniform, but the thugs were not putting on uniform, but they were together in the game of unleashing violence on the sympathizers of the media outfits. That brings to the question of the repression on opinions. Because getting to the courts, we started writing on the placards, and they did not even allow us to start anything at all before the Wahaboba elements ordered these people to unleash violence on us. So how they started that is just to adumbrate the fact that we live in a society that is undemocratic. Because we went there only to express and to observe what was going on. But how they started the whole thing, even to the extent of stripping one of our comrades naked, a female for that matter. So that shows that it is very barbaric. It shows that the Senate President, who sits on a chair that addresses legal issues, is not even is not legal. He himself is not lawful. That's just the meaning. Because if you, as a lawmaker, someone who makes law, you should respect the law. But when you don't respect the law, that shows that you are unlawful and your cronies are also unlawful, which this is very, very abominable, and we condemn it.
The events at the Ilorin High Court was utterly condemnable, and it's so disgraceful to the extent that one wouldn't have expected such barbaric act in a democratic dispensation, and in the first instance, especially as an eyewitness in the brazen attacks both from the uniformed and ununiformed thugs, it really expresses the state of the nation as a whole. For you to have a situation whereas innocent youths, students, and civil society individuals, especially members of the press as well, who decided to exert their democratic right to observe court proceedings, and in such situation they were met with brazen repression, not just by the organized police force but by thugs, mobilized by the Senate president with the view of intimidating innocent observers into total silence. Such situation really was quite gory. For instance, we had situations whereby women, young ladies were stripped naked. They were disgraced and ripped of everything that is left of their womanhood. Journalists were beaten to a pulp, such that can only be characterized by what we can see during the military regime. Some of the footage that were taken by some journalists who are represented were destroyed by these same thugs. Most of these state machines, the likes of the police force and the Nigerian military, are mere thugs in uniform. In fact, some of them have been converted into private thugs of one politician or the other. And you can even see the display of utter regard for humanity or not in what's happening in the southeast as regarding the attack on members of IPOB, the indigenous people of Biafra. All of this in addition reimburses our position that all hands must be on deck, against this new trend of attacks against independent journalism and free speech. And unfortunately, at this situation, this kind of attacks on free speech and press has taken a global dimension. Currently now, as we have it in Turkey, Turkey has jailed over 200 journalists, some of them columnists. They were jailed just for observing opinion against the despotic regime of President Erdogan. And now in Nigeria, it is of a maddening crescendo, an embarrassing magnitude to be precise, because now they've cultivated a national red line around discussions of Nigerian citizens. They've in fact, the military head in fact stated that they are beginning to monitor anti-government posts, which means that very soon, you and I who are hungry and are venting our spleen against hunger, the moment we post it on Facebook, we will find ourselves in the police net. But unfortunately for them too, they will need to go and build a very big prison. ANSA is taking this issue quite seriously. It's because within the Alliance of Nigerian Students Against Neoliberal Attacks, we understand the essence of the fourth arm in democratic dispensation. You see, as we have always said, development in any society comes by the way of disclosure of internal contradictions through constructive criticism, and the fourth arm is an important section of ensuring those democratic principles are upheld, so that the attack on journalists is not just on the journalists, it is on us all as Nigerians, which beckons on not just the student movement but even the organized labor to take it quite seriously. A lot of Nigerians will begin to find themselves in prisons, but with that attack, I am convinced that Nigerians will even begin to rise to question this trend of irrationality. But in the concluding sense, like a German philosopher once said, he said that when they came for the socialists, I did not talk because I was not a socialist. They came for the trade unionists. I did not talk because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews. I did not talk because I was not a Jew. But when they came for me, there was no one left to speak for me. And that's the situation we are gradually heading to in Nigeria. And that is why all hands must be on deck. We call on organized labor, civil society organizations, and prominently the members and leadership of the Nigerian Union of Journalists to rise to this task in defense of free journalism, independent journalism, and free speech.
The mass organizations of practitioners of that trade themselves are not even picking up the gauntlet in defending the democratic rights of their members. It's also the same fate that befalls the entire labor movement, wherein these labor leaders pick off automatic check-off dues without not picking the day-to-day struggles of their members. As we speak, the Nigerian Union of Journalists has not even issued a single statement to condemn the monstrous attacks on media houses and journalists across the country. You will recollect with me that during the resume or resign protest in Abuja, some TV journalists were harassed. Again, in Ilorin, where a media house was having a legal matter, some media practitioners were also harassed. But nothing, not even a word of protest from the Nigerian Union of Journalists, from other sister unions of all these mass organizations. There are some legal implications, both civil and criminal, for the attack on media practitioners at Ilorin. If you observe, the people that perpetrated this attack were civilian elements who were heavily guarded and assisted by some policemen on duty. Now, we put a big question mark on the integrity of the Commissioner of Police of Kwara State for allowing men under his command to perpetrate this barbarous attack on democratic rights. We are calling on the Inspector General of Police to call to order the Commissioner of Police of Kwara State and his liege pins who are perpetrating these barbaric attacks on the press. And we also call on the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to call to order the Directorate of Military Intelligence that have been screening and also monitoring social media posts for what is not.